Good morning, everyone. It looks like the invasion, where's the camera? It looks like the invasion has truly begun. Guys, before we start, I do apologize for the aesthetics behind me. We're still in the studio. We're building it. I put these walls up the other day. We need to get something that's better on there. I think I'm going to move my desk over there. But guys, let's just get on with it. So the invasion of, what are we calling it? The invasion, the limited ground incursions into Lebanon started last night. If you guys were on my live stream last night, we said this was highly likely that this would happen. And if you've been following my videos, you'll know that I don't feel that any time in history moving forwards, we're going to have a situation whereby, you know, some Netanyahu is going to stand up and he's going to say, we declare war on country X, we declare war on country Y. You're going to have these limited military incursions, special military operations, you know, war on terror. I genuinely don't think anymore we're going to have anybody come and stand up and say we're in a war. That said, continuing that thought process, I don't feel we're ever going to have a declaration of a third world war. It just seems it's never going to happen. What you will have, though, when the fighting stopped in X amount of years, I said it would take 40 years, but when this fighting has stopped, people will look back potentially and say, you know what, guys, that was the Third World War. Or maybe when we're some distance into it, people will just say, guys, look, we're actually in a Third World War because everybody's fighting. I think I've just spilled coffee. No. So we're going to focus on this invasion into Lebanon and the tactics that they could use. If we see, and I've said this so many times, if we see the same tactics by the Israelis that they've used in Gaza, you're literally going to see the whole of the Middle East unite. You're going to see the whole of the Middle East then attacking the Israelis. That's going to drag the Americans into this conflict. You know, people don't understand how closely tied the Israelis and the Americans are. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's how it is. So let's get on with it then, guys. So and I need to be really careful about my wording because I'm getting videos taken down now. So this is from an article. In fact, I'll share this with you guys and we'll go through it and then I'll tell you how this, what lessons have been learned. And they're actually, remember how I told you about this tactic of when the Israelis are moving into a location, they're clearing it, they're then turning it into rubble. Well, it's actually a tactic now. It's called rubbleization. Am I sharing? Yeah. So Israel says troops entered Lebanon for limited targeted ground raids on Hezbollah. Remember, this is how it started in Gaza. This is how the Russians started in Ukraine. This looks like the new normal for, you know, a declaration of war. These limited ground incursions, these, limited targeted raids on Hezbollah targets. Israeli troops have entered Lebanon in limited ground operation. The targets inside southern Lebanon pose an immediate threat to Israel's communities, says the IDF. So this is what you would find. You would find, you know, the Israelis would move in past their borders and they would set up a buffer zone. So this is kind of like what they're doing. And then they would push those lines of exploitation further and further up the country. On Monday, Hezbollah's deputy leader, Nassim Qassem, said the group was ready for an Israeli ground offensive and that the battle may be long. It seems like when I do these videos, when I did a video before this happened, and I said that the next war could potentially be 40 years. Now, a conflict has to be 40 years. You have to be in that country 40 years. So those kids who go into that country who are about no older than 5 years old, they need to be the ones making the decisions. So they need to have grown up with whatever regime you're implying on those people. They need to grow up with that regime, you know, to not be a threat. Otherwise, if you go before 40 years, if you go in 20 years, 10 years, you know, you have a load of people who are just angry with you and you actually make more enemies than, you know, you actually do more harm for yourselves than good. The other way you can do it is you can go full Genghis Khan, but, you know, I don't think that's going to be acceptable it's 2024. I don't at this point think that would be acceptable. anywhere. But, you know, as we move forward, who knows? Guys, there's just been an upgrade to this. Lebanon faces one of the most dangerous phases in history. Lebanese Prime Minister says his country is facing one of the most dangerous phases in history. He made the comment during a UN meeting hours after Israeli troops entered southern Lebanon. What's key about this conflict is what the French have said. Now, the French have come out and they've been quite open about it. The French, I think it was the French, either foreign minister or defense minister. They've said that they would support the Israeli army, the Lebanese army. So you've got a lot of problems at the moment for the Israelis. You've got a lot of problems in the Middle East. Not only are the Israelis now looking like they're fighting a war on 3 fronts, and they can't fight a war on 4 fronts because it's water, and you know they can't fight. Well, who knows? But you know there's a lot of US warships in that region in the Mediterranean, and from what we know previously, when the Iranians sent a huge missile attack over to Israel, the US Air Force, the Air Force of the United Kingdom, the RAF, they went out and they intercepted a lot of these munitions, they intercepted a lot of these long-range missiles, and they intercepted a lot of these drones. This really protected Israel, and it took the strain off the Israel's Iron Dome system, which in turn stopped a lot of those attacks coming through. The Iranians have identified RAF Akateria, and they have said, listen, you know, if in fact it was the Lebanese actually, they've identified RAF Akateria, which is in southern Cyprus, and they've said, listen, you know, if you guys get involved, we're gonna send cruise missiles into your location. I think that's a lot of bluster. You know, RAF Akateria, it knows the threat. They will have air defenses. They will have, you know, means to repair the runway. But it just brings in more countries to this conflict. It makes this conflict a wider reaching conflict rather than it being, you know, isolated between, well, I say isolated between Israel, Gaza, Syria, and now Lebanon. Really key what's happening, guys. What I want to do now is I want to share a quick screen about an analysis that was made about the conflict in Gaza. This is called Tactical Lessons. What's it called? Tactical Lessons from Israel Defense Forces. It's basically a report done. It's probably done by somebody in, well, they say that, but it's probably done by Chatham House. This paper seeks to identify lessons relevant to the British Army based on the analysis of the operations in autumn 2023. So this is from the invasion, well, I say invasion, the limited military incursion into Gaza. That's what they call them now, guys. So where is it? They coined the term here, and it's rubblization. I can't find it. Where is it? IDF's Gaza, but there we go, guys. So IDF has had persistent challenges with the rubblization, both because it had created obstructions moving forward and degrading the ability to describe terrain and thus coordinate fire control. The IDF has concluded that specific training is necessary for what is terming devastated terrain warfare. So that's what they're calling it. They're calling it devastated terrain warfare and the rubblization. So this is going to be a new phase of war. This is going to be a new tactic developed. It's certainly something I've never trained on, but that looks like it's the norm now. Remember, this tactic of, it's kind of a Genghis Khan tactic when you move into a location and you just rubblize the whole thing, and then you move bulldozers in and you flatten it. You know, nobody's going to get behind you if the earth's flattened. So then, like always, the more important things are down at the bottom. This. So what we're talking about here is the problems that they've came across. So there's this second problem here. Secondly, in conventional and unconventional conflict, combatants are increasingly blending in with the civilian population in a manner that makes discrimination difficult. So what you've got there then is what we've been saying for such a long time on this channel. When people are talking about, you know, Russia, Iran, North Korea, these militaries that, you know, the West, that NATO laugh about, that they joke about because they don't have the fastest jets, they don't have the most sophisticated ships, it doesn't matter because they're not going to fight like that. They're going to fight non-conventionally. That's the way it goes. Iran has literally half of Iran's military is devoted to non-conventional warfare, asymmetric warfare, ideological subversion, grey warfare, you know, all these things that the West has no answer to. Imagine now, guys, and I said this in yesterday's video. Imagine now if, and I'm just, let me know in the comments if you think this is a possibility. If you could flood your enemy's shores with enemy combatants, but tell them they're not combatants, and then get your enemy to pay for those soldiers, to get your enemy to put those soldiers up in accommodation. Imagine if you could do that. Imagine if you could get hundreds of thousands of people in a said country and get your enemy to pay for it. Wouldn't that be an amazing tactic? No, I'm not saying that's happening, guys. You let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, guys, so the situation in Israel, in Lebanon at the moment, it's moving forwards. It's absolutely dynamic. Things are being updated every couple of minutes. We'll keep you informed most of the day. I think we're going to go live on this platform and the other one. I think we're going to try and do a double live stream this morning because it's such a dynamic situation. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go now. I do apologize about the studio. I'll get this better and working for you. I'm going to back to grid and I'll get you guys another video later.